Hey guys, so there's another podcast. The Turabify Network in general is a place where we put together the awesomest people that I can find to talk about how to give humanity some tools to deal with the technological future that is to come, some of the trends that are going on in society, and some words of wisdom from people that have done tremendous things and are doing tremendous things in life. So I'm joined here by Shades, Mr. Dimitry, who is very knowledgeable about the crypto industry. I've been to a conference with him, probably going to be going to many others in the future. So thank you so much for coming on, Dimitri. Appreciate your time, boss. How have you been? How's life?
Pleasure is all mine. Life is good. Life is an experiment, right? And if you stand still, you fall behind. So you have to keep going, and only then you find out which way you've gone, and if you've done right, then good on you. If not, then you just pivot. That's all it is.
It's a bunch of left and right turns, huh? And you get lucky, hopefully.
Yeah, it's Cheshire Cat said it best. Well, where do you want to get to? I have no idea. Well, it doesn't really matter where you're gonna go. So have a plan. If your plan is based on things that variables that you don't know anything about, then you'll find out as you're going along. That's all it is. Yeah, I think it's less about me, sort of, right? But the path, and I guess I'm an immigrant in the U.S. I'm from Ukraine originally. I think I can't claim that this part played a big role in where I ended up being, but it certainly gave me a different perspective, because when you have dual identity, you inevitably try to kind of assess the world from different lenses. I mean, there is a plus and a minus in it. The plus is that, the minus is obviously you're not 100% into the culture, but the plus is because you can actually see the nuances in life. Right? Everybody kind of travels their own way. Some people rely on their very strong identity. Some people rely on kind of the twilight zone in between the two identities, kind of feeling your way around, right? And so investment, and even prior to that, professional achievements and professional, I guess, attempts at achieve proficiency in the field were not straightforward, but they were kind of guided by that dual identity, right? Treating failure as just something that comes along, treating success as being thankful and humble about things, because either way, if you go on the dial of being very successful or not successful, if you're on the dial anywhere between the two, you are walking a very tight path of falling to one side or to the other. The one side, falling to the poor part, is obviously bad from your just life, physical life perspective, but also falling into overwhelming success without having ethics, morals, and underlying base. It's like lottery ticket that you win. You may lose, you may spend it all right away, and then you're left with nothing. I'm very blessed, with the fact that I'm trying. I haven't learned that, I haven't mastered that, but I'm trying to stay somewhere in the middle, from a perspective of being more humble about achievements and being philosophical about failures.
Absolutely. I mean, I've just a few conversations that we had when we were in Toronto at the AI Crypto Events Conference. It just showed how much knowledge and how much you value really that moral caliber in the people that you spend your time with, and making sure that all of this beautiful information that you put out is completely free, and you make sure that if anyone has access to it, that it is not behind any sort of paywalls. Like, you are genuinely dedicated to educating people about the things that they're interested in. Where did you start off your professional career? Like, what got you into this whole investing space to begin with?
So specifically about investing, I'm from the tech background, and so still to now I'm in tech. I think at some point I was doing consulting for a while, and consulting involves traveling, involves talking to people.
What type of consulting?
I'm in IT security consulting. I'm doing computer security and stuff like that. So, and I've seen different environments, different companies I've been at. I've seen different people, right? And the people that came across, they were both technical, non-technical. They were just regular people. They just happened to be in this place, right? Somebody chooses this path, some other choose other paths. So I've come across some people who would come to work and actually enjoy work. And what they would do, they would just come in for a couple hours and do what they like, and they leave. But they don't leave because somebody says we don't have any work for you. They go because they've done things for the day, they've accomplished what they wanted, and they've gone on. And I ask them, what is it that keeps you here at work? Versus, why are you coming for just 2 hours? What's the deal? Usually you'd come in 9 to 5, or you'd spend maybe 10 hours working, depending on what your situation is. And I was just taken aback by one response from a guy who said, well, hey, if I work by hour, this is all I make. I started work and I end at work, and there is nothing left. And so what I want to do in my life doesn't go directly with any kind of work, because work, I don't know if you may be aware, but I've actually come up to, I'm over 40 right now. And so I've come to a place where things that I was interested in my 20s and 30s may not necessarily interest me right now, or it's a less of a priority, let's say. And so every 10, 20 years, you reinvent yourself, and sometimes you don't even try. And so what he told me is, hey, in 10 years, you're not going to like what you're doing right now, not because you may not like the field. It's just things are that way. You grew out of it, or you find something else. And he hit me at the time when I was so passionate and so into the thing I was doing. I'm like, you are full of BS. I will never stop liking it. I will never leave. Look at me. I'm climbing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And he's like, hey, it's your life. You're going to see that. So I'm like, okay. And here's where you need to put the ego aside and say, all right, well, that guy may not be what I'm expecting, his ideas, but I'll listen to him. I'll listen to him because I want to know his example. And so he continued, and he said, well, I amass assets that pay me while I sleep. He has this philosophy about what he wants to do with the money, not necessarily all financial, not necessarily all the luxury or comfort, but that's beside the point. The matter of fact is that if you do not invest some part of your proceeds, you're just not going to enjoy life in some period of time, because the idols, the professional idols that you've built in your 10 years career, trying to climb the ladder, trying to build your place in this world, may not amount to anything, right? You may lose the business, you may not, like the field may go away. Like, for example, with AI, a lot of fields may potentially transfer into something else or go away. And so not even from the money perspective, but from the perspective of, I don't want to be in a position of not being able to start again, is why I want to invest. I want to have an optionality to proceed in a different direction, not necessarily actually amass wealth for the wealth's sake, right? And so that led me to the investment and, trying to just self-learn about things. I'm not that strong in investment, to be honest with you. I'm more, I just like to play the macro thing and then seeing the trends, and based on that trends, I'm doing my investment. I don't do technical analysis. Believe it or not, I'm actually not in any of the traditional assets. Like, I'm not into stocks. I'm not doing bonds. None of that. My real estate is only where I live. And my focus is mostly on crypto at the moment and alternative assets that have to do with energy.
Brilliant.
So this is sort of my path to investment and what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. So real quick, like, what is, say there's a kid coming out of college, right? And they got a job. Maybe they're really smart and they network properly, and they got a job that gives them, 6 figures a year.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think it's wise for that person to start looking into investment? Like, what type of financial backing would you suggest for a younger person before they actually start getting into some sort of investment in their life?
Yeah. So if I was me and starting back, I would say do it as early as possible, and actually do it with mistakes. Make your mistakes early. If you lose, $500, it's a lot when you're 20. But it will prevent you from losing $500,000 later on. And it's not because you're smart or you're given a golden card in life, right? Or how Americans call it, silver spoon, born with silver spoon. But there are certain things that you have to go through based on your character, and not everybody makes the same mistakes. And so the issue of investment early is the fact that you don't know yourself as a person. And as you're growing, you get to know yourself, what works for you, right? In terms of money, in terms of other life choices. And so when you get in and you start playing with things, when you're 15 or 18. Just mow the lawn for $50, take $20 out of it and play with it. But don't go to a casino. Make it a learning experience. I'm taking this $20, I'm investing this, and this is why I'm doing it. Here's my thesis. And then if you want to make a diary entry and say, I've invested $20 and here's why I did this. And then when you lose, as you inevitably will lose the $20 somewhere along the way, you will say, okay, that did not work. And then it gives you impetus for analysis. Why did it not work? Was it the wrong timing? Was my premise wrong? Was it not enough money? Did I not pay attention to my investment? All these things kind of amass into the strategy that you're learning yourself through it. And by the time you hit 20, when you have more money out of college, right? You're making significantly, hopefully, more money than you've done when you were in your teens. You have a plan. You don't necessarily know where the world goes, but you know what works for you. And this is why I would have encouraged myself early on to start doing investment.
Gotcha. So yeah, there's the kind of these different conventional wisdoms, right? I think the terminology that was most interesting with me is play, right? Play with money. So then that begs the question, Dimitri, how do you look at money in the context of humanity? Like what does money even mean, right? In terms of if someone's going to play with this thing that's also very necessary for their livelihood, and to some degree they're playing in life, right? So what does money mean to you?
Everything is play in life because you're not guaranteed anything. Everything is about odds, right? And it's the beauty and I think it's very beautiful that you don't have a course, right? Before you were born into a caste, you stayed in a caste until you died, and your children will be in that caste. So upward mobility in life is very much appreciated for where I'm coming from, right? And so if I assume that I have an option or a chance to acquire means of changing my life, i.e. money, which is the other side of every single transaction that you have, right? Services, money. Goods, money. Anything you do, the other side is the money. And so to me, money is energy for an opportunity to do something more interesting, more in line with your, I wouldn't say passion. I don't like the word passion. I like the word, what's the word where you have a predetermination in life that you're trying to achieve. You don't know how you're gonna get there, but you have this goal.
Destiny?
It's softer than destiny because destiny assumes that you don't have any other deviations. But like your goal in life, that let's just call it a goal, right? Money to me is not the end, right? Like I don't want to be the richest guy in a cemetery or lonely guy on a boat, right? It doesn't matter. What matters is that energy and that gets spent wisely. For example, if I see a kid who is promising, I know his potential, I like him as a professional, I'm gonna give him money. I'm just gonna give him not a loan. I'm just gonna give him money and say, go play with it, right? See if out of $1,000 what you're gonna come up with. And that's not something that was done to me a lot, right? But I was rich because a lot of people gave me advices, right? And so I want to compensate either with money or advice to somebody who I see potential with or in.
What are some of the characteristics that you look for when you see potential in someone? Like what's that extra spark that kind of gets you to like your soul to ignite and you say, okay, maybe you deserve a chance here?
A curiosity of mind, not being afraid to ask questions, at the same time being humble about the outcome. So it's kind of like this: you can give it 100% and still be wrong. Wouldn't you agree?
All the
Right?
time.
And so if a person is not afraid of actually going and doing and has an idea, because a lot of people go through life without any idea, they just react to whatever happens. Oh, there's this news that come out, okay, maybe that's how things are. But if you have an idea and you have this burning sensation inside of you that you gotta do it, either you go to a garage and start a company, or you build an engine, or you're doing something, and your only issue is starting capital, and your only issue is having somebody to believe in you, that's a small price to pay for things that you can do in your life. Because to actually get the burning desire, is very rare. And if you have it, means that call it universe, call it God, call it however you want to call it, but there's a part of you that calls you to do certain things, right? And so in this case, money would be a very fair contribution to this success. Why giving, not a loan? Because with the loan comes responsibility of tracking and thinking about the money that you've given. And I don't want that. I mean, up to a reasonable extent. If you're asking me for $10,000 and that's 50% of my net worth, that's a different story than if you're asking me for, $10,000 and that's like 1%.
So you brought up crypto quite a bit, and obviously the world is still very new to crypto. Very few people really even understand where this thing is going. So how do you see the role of cryptocurrency evolving in the global economy in like the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, timelines are always hard, right? But let's look at the generational theory where you have, let's say, 4 generations. None of the people living right now know about the 4th generation back. So our great grandparents are never around, right? This is the sort of the cycle, or fortune or misfortune, but it's the cycle of everything, of political cycles, historical cycles, macro, micro. A first generation goes through struggles. They make better harness for the next generation. Next generation tries to cherish and increase, or at least maintain status quo. The third generation doesn't understand where the money came from or where the reasons for investing comes from. They're like, okay, well, great, I have great life. And so they dissipate the energy of money, they dissipate the energy of assets, they dissipate the energy of maybe even tradition in certain ways, right? And the 4th generation necessarily turns into the 1st generation again, going through struggles. So I believe that crypto is a generational shift from all the ills of a monetary system that has come through every 8 to 100 years. Just like we don't understand the reasons, well, we understand the history of what happened, but we can't internalize, the context of these people living at the beginning of the last century, right? Why they did the way, things that the way they did. And so we're bound to repeat the same mistakes. So crypto specifically is a protest against the 3rd generation that is dissipating the assets, dissipating the wealth of anything that has been built, 3 generations prior, right? The reason why is because we as humans just don't learn. We think that history starts with us. So my thing that crypto is the new rails for payments, new rails for accumulation of wealth, new rails for transmitting value from one person to another, much like cash was 100 years ago. When you would have gone to a market, there was no other method of payment than cash, because cash was a bearer asset. So long-winded answer to your question, where I see 5 to 10 years and what I want of crypto, is the fact that I am banking on explosive growth. I don't know the value of it. I don't know the exact timeline, but I do see the trend, and I want to play that trend.
Especially considering the statistics of the percentage of wealth on the planet and where it's going to be going. I mean, it goes to show that there is tremendous value in this revolt, right? This human revolt against generational
status quo. That's status quo, right? Status quo in life is what allows you to do evolution. If you were happy, you're living on the island with everything given to you, there's no progress. And the nature works that way, right? And so crypto is a disruptor. And if you are playing right, and if you think that that's disruptor and not like, if this disruptor has merit and it will stick and it will not get disrupted yet again in 5 years completely, then you can make a case of, okay, I want to play here. But you need to understand that if you wait for 5 years and say, okay, well, maybe something else disrupts crypto, then you're in a perpetual indecision cycle, which is also bad, because then your money gets eaten up by inflation
or taxes.
Or taxes.
So your case for crypto, if I'm getting this in my own words, is basically the money that you have in your bank account right now, just raw cash, is controlled by larger people, we'll call them, but really like corporations and other things.
Leverage.
Yeah, that basically want you to spend this money because it gives it value, but also because to them, the money that you made is so far down the pipeline from when they printed it that it basically is worthless.
Exactly. They're worthless by the time because if the goal is to accumulate wealth, not just live from paycheck to paycheck and eat well or whatever, but really increase it, like start from $1,000 and know that by the time I retire, I have X number of dollars in my, not in the bank, but in my pocket, let's say. But the problem is I have no guarantees of before I could go and work in one place and I can say, okay, my career spans 40 years in one place. They treat me right, they give me pension, and that's enough for me. Most people will take it. But that's not the case right now. The volatility of the jobs, the volatility of the monetary system has moved people into up the risk curve. But the only thing that can compensate for risk is assets that pay you, either through yield or through some kind of a reevaluation over time to the upside, things like this. And by the way, your point on having my money in the bank, owning, and going from there, just from the percentage perspective, it's one perspective, but also I don't own the money in my own bank, in my own name, in a checking account. If you look at the legal documents that you sign when you open a checking account, the minute you deposit that money into the bank, legally, they are the owner of your money. So what happens then when you go to the bank and you say, okay, I would like to withdraw $10,000, give me cash. The first question they ask is, what do you need it for?
Even though it's your money.
Yeah, exactly. Because they want to know, they call it know your customer, anti-money laundering. So maybe you'll go buy drugs or, send it something. The point being is that because they're legally, they're
the owners
the money, they have the right to ask that kind of question. Now you think
they want to know if they're going to get a return on investment on that money, right? Whatever money you're going to put back in from that, is that going to be more than you took out from their bank account?
There is that. Pure and simple, just because they can, because they they loan out 9 out of $10 that they have in your bank, in the bank. And so when you come in and ask for $10,000, if you come in and I come in, it's fine. But if all our class of 2025 comes in and says, hey, we all each need $10,000, they may not have it because they have an investment, and each of the 10,000 makes 4 to 6%. And if you're using credit card, it's 24%. Their business is to you deposit your earned money into the bank. They fan it out at 9-to-1 ratio to investments. From the Federal Reserve, they get 0.1% fee.
So they're getting their money for super cheap, and they're loaning it out for more, and they're already making money off of that.
That's exactly right. And if you've noticed, either in your mortgage statement or a credit card bill, you're forced to pay the percentage first, right? And then the principal. So either way you make it, there's no room for you to increase your wealth because you're paying fees and you're playing by their rules. So
just for transacting in their system.
That's it.
Literally.
Transacting in their system, a crypto is an instant payment, let's say, or instant transfer. In order for you to wire something, it takes 2 to 3 days in the bank. Tell me what they do with the money for 2 to 3 days. Loan it out under 3-4% or more overnight to the bank, to other banks or to the government. So they make money on your request to give yourself funds that you own, or give somebody, or transfer the funds to somebody else. This is why the digital dollar is never a bearer asset like cash. I can't come to you and say, here's my dollar, you do whatever you want with it. I have to go to the bank, beg, pretty please, I will allow you to spend the money for the next 2 to 3 days. Charge me the fees, $25 to $50 to transfer the money, and only then I'm gonna hope and pray that didn't screw up and actually gets to the bank of the other person. On the other side, the guy makes 0.01% on the checking account. Do you see how that? So the system is such that people have no way out of that vicious cycle, right? Unless you have either starting capital, you make the right decisions, you have connections, and you make your right decisions that way. Because as you know, information is, good information is not free. Good information in a lot of
unless it's coming from Dimitry.
No, there's a different reason for that, right? Like, I'm not holding any proprietary info, but I am just saying that crypto is this. And so if people see an alternative before Bitcoin, there was no reason, there was no other way of transferring my dollar in cash to your pocket directly. And so given the choice, scams, all of that, right? Like, it's all part of the maturity, growing pains. It's a new society, if you will, right? It's a new contract. It's a new social contract. I think right now we're basically probably even instigated by the AI revolution. We're obviously going to see which way that's going to go, but I think we are being pushed to explore, right? Beyond our current capabilities. It's a painful process. Yes, some people may not adjust. I don't think they will be left behind. Maybe there's going to be some social. I mean, hopefully our society is evolved to at least the point where we will have.
They're trying, right? They're trying to educate people on how to use AI a little bit in certain like colleges and stuff. It's like required that they learn how to use ChatGPT as their assistant or whatever. So they're trying, but it's like it really genuinely does make a difference, because I hire people. If they don't know how to use ChatGPT, they are not as valuable an employee, because they are limited to their understanding of what's around them.
So a union in Hollywood, there was a union of artists or union of actors that came out and say, we don't want ChatGPT. They're writing better scripts.
Yeah, the writing strikes. Yeah.
This is the sort of tension that we're going to see in a lot of areas, because things can be automated not only on the physical level, but also on the intellectual level. And so
what the emotional level, right?
Yeah.
Like people are literally seeking friends out of these AIs, right? Because of the lack of social connection.
So what are we left as humans? What we need to go, in my mind, we need to start at the basics. We need to start learning philosophy. We need to start learning real connection with people, not through artificial social media type of relationship where you're a dog on the internet and so is everybody else. But
avatar, you got your cool sword.
Avatar, right? There's going to be a pivot, or I think there's going to be some uncomfortable truth.
It's a necessity.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. But again, if we need progress, and if we started our discussion, what is life, right? Like, life is fun, life is beautiful, and life is never repeats. Everything is just new. So in a lot of ways, and so that's interesting. The problem is knowing enough and having enough information not to burn. This is where I come back to a 15-year-old taking $1,000 and playing. Because if you've never invested and you've gotten, maybe a pension or something, and you're 50 years old and you come out there, the world is wild, right? Crooks, scams, thieves, whatever, and even just plain ignorance.
They're looking for you.
They're looking for you. So you're going to get $100,000 to somebody without doing due diligence. You simply, by experience, cannot do enough due diligence within a month. You have to be playing it since you were 20 years old in some ways, shapes, or forms, right? Like, because you want
or start now, right? Or just if you have 5% of your income, 2% of your income, something, like go and so there's investment into assets. What is your thought about the investment into self as an asset?
How do you mean?
Whereas like buying courses, or getting yourself in a master class, or for instance, spending the time and energy to go to a conference to meet someone like yourself and actually have the respect to have a conversation, right? What do you think about the human soul, the individual also being an asset in their own life?
In the world of AI or post-AI, as we're slowly getting into that, whatever shape it takes, either it takes dystopian or utopian shape, we don't know, but investing in yourself is the only way to stay sane and not be dumbed down by answers from ChatGPT without doing due diligence and knowing the exact answers. See, the problem with ChatGPT is not that it's not a smart system, it's the fact that it needs to be augmented by a professional. If you were to go and ask a question in your field of, for example, dentistry, that is very nuanced, and you answer asking ChatGPT is going to give you a very generic answer, and you will say that 20% of it is wrong, and maybe that's the 20% that was crucial in solving the case for a patient. That's the problem. So you can be a power user of ChatGPT. You can go and maximize Turab and say, okay, Turab will be 3%, 5%, 10% more efficient because I don't need to be searching for it. I can ask for answer and I can vet that answer, right? Now, the other side is that if I'm no Turab, if I know nothing about dentistry, if I'm going to ask a question, it's going to give me a very authoritative, expert answer on a subject I know nothing about. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know better, right? And I am going to be deceived for it. And so what I'm calling for is in the age of AI and ChatGPT is to learn. Learn, you can use the tools, but learn. Learn in the path that you want to grow. I have a budget for learning. I take courses. I don't know I'm gonna get any return from it. I'm just interested in the subject and I'm gonna go spend money and I'm going to buy it for myself, for other people, for family. Because if you're interested in some things, you need to have curated information.
Dimitry, I wanted to ask you one last question. Man, what does your average day look like? So you're talking about working 2 hours, you're talking about all these investments, you're talking about crypto. Man's a philosopher, clearly reading a lot. Like, what the hell? What does an average day for Dimitry look like?
I'm not in my perfect element, to be honest with you. Obviously, this is why I'm still trying, right? And whatever. I picked up philosophies. Again, I change things. I try to change things. Like, for example, I'm still working full time doing the security.
How many hours do you work? Is it 9 to 5? Is it a 9 to 4?
No, it's just if I have a project, I work on it until I'm interested in it. Like I'm a more of a time and material type of deal. Right? Like I take a project for the next 2-3 weeks and then work on it really.
And you get paid contract. So
Yep.
you finish the project,
Yeah.
and then you can move on. You can kind of take a break if you want, whatever. Do you have your own company that you kind of run everything through? Very cool. And so is it referral based, or is it a?
Sometimes it's referral. I do have some customers, actually bigger companies like Fortune 500 that I could imagine call me up. It's not my preference, or I'm very grateful for it, but like I could have just as well work on smaller businesses. Unfortunately, in this area, small businesses don't have the exact need that I provide for them, right? Like it's just a different niche. But for the off days, I like to do just like what I'm talking to you about, or we're talking. Sometimes like yesterday, I picked up a book on like philosophy and religion kind of thing, right? Like in history type of deal. I'm kind of interested in it. So I'm looking at that, and then crypto. I'm in Genius community, and I'm interested in that. I try to keep track of that, and sometimes I don't, and that's okay. Like I'm not the most, what do you call it, read on crypto, whatever. Like it's fine. Maybe if I have a crypto business, I would be more in line with that. But I like that kind of stuff. I like variety of it, and it keeps me being human, because I've seen so many people burning out at work just doing one thing,
Yeah.
20 years, one thing. And I recognize that they actually, honestly, even for people who love their job, they wish they could escape that. Not because they want to stop working, but they want to do it on their own terms.
Entrepreneurship.
Because you have the downtime and you have the uptime, and sometimes you have like you get up and you say, okay, well, I don't want to do that specific thing right now, and maybe it's you inside calling to do something else. Like I'm not in the camp that says you have to push hard 80 hours a week, 120 hours a week. I'm not in that camp.
Were you ever in that camp?
Yeah, when I was in my 20s. This is why I'm saying this.
Yeah.
There's
So you
nothing
speak
to do
from experience. Yeah.
nothing to do with money, to be honest with you.
You wanted to be useful, I assume.
Yeah, and it's almost like I can think for 2 days. Like I like to have the time to think, right? And then I say, all right, let's go, right? And then we go and do certain things, and then that makes sense because I try to avoid as much as I can doing busy work, because it makes no sense.
Right. It doesn't light you up. It's not why you chose to work that hard in your 20s, right? You wanted to have the time and energy to just enjoy life. It actually reminds me of times in dental school where I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna go to class. I'm just gonna go for a walk in the woods and like paint something, or So it's yeah, man, and those were probably some of my happiest years, to be honest, too. That level of freedom.
There's a thing called memento mori calendar. I don't know if you know. It's essentially, I'll send you the name. It's a Latin for the time of death. Right? Like it sounds ooh death, but it's essentially, if you can think about it as a matrix, just like an X and Y matrix with squares in it, and every square is a week of your life, and then you can set up like, do you live for 80 years or 95 years or whatever, and then you can see in the finite space where you are. And it's such a profound revelation where you say, I'm in week 572 or something like that. It doesn't matter, right? Out of potentially, I don't know, 85, 90 years, right? Like however long humans live now and will live in the foreseeable future. And it inspires you to do good things and do things that you value. Because every time you look at it, it's like, should I do A or B? And when you look at it and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do B because A leads me in no man's land for the next 5 weeks. And I have so many
weeks left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
God.
yeah, it's not to kind of cause panic or anything, but that harkens back to that statement that you got to be honest with yourself. What do you want to do? You may not be the same as another person. You may have completely different interests, the mode of operations. So for all you know, you can be very happy moving widgets for $15 an hour from one side to another. Hey, who am I to tell you who you are, right? You may be very happy. You can go live in the woods and also be happy there, but you gotta know who you are. That was me.
No, I thank you so much for your time. Every time I talk to you, Dimitri, it's such a breath of fresh air to see such a strengthened perspective over time and just a commitment to, your passions. I mean, you're certainly a role model for me. And, you talked about apprenticeship in general. And I don't know if I talked to you about the concept of the Turabify Network, which was essentially a vortex. Basically, when someone finds something that they're passionate about, that they can kind of get into this thing and find a mentor and maybe hear those words for 15 minutes and get a little kick. So I wanted to invite you to be one of those mentors, and I think you'll have more of these conversations which clearly light you up, but also you're just incredible at just capturing your philosophy in a way that's digestible. And thank you for, I can only imagine the amount that you've given back to other folks. I mean, just based on the little interaction that I've had with you, the abundance is clear. It's apparent.
Robin, I want to thank you. I'm hoping it's a discussion, not a monologue, right? I value you just like, the same way I'm always a student. I feel like every person can teach you something as long as you're honest with yourself and you want to have that, that direction. Right, like you for honest with yourself, and then you receive the message. Honestly, it works, and so I try to apply it to myself. And I'm actually fortunate to have met you, and I hope we have more productive discussions going forward.
Oh, for sure, man. I'll be bugging you about energy. Definitely want to also send you an invite to my little book club. I think you might find it interesting. I don't know how much time you have, but anyway, thank you again, Dimitri, for coming on the podcast. I intend to have you back. Are you going to come to DC for that event? Not this time?
No, this time.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what the turnout's going to be, but there's a crypto event in DC that we're doing with the Genius Foundation, and if you guys are interested in any of that stuff, it's also going to be down below. So again, thank you, Dimitri, and you have a good night, boss.